I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews with Nathan, growth of Snapshot, and Manlio, the co-founder of HAL, together on the show. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Nathan.
All right, guys, let's kick it off. There's so much to talk about in such little time. We're going to focus this conversation around DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, the growth of DAOs throughout 2021, and I think 2022, and how it will be an expansive year for that, and how they are turning into the future of internet organizations. I would love to kick it off, Nathan, by hearing a little bit about yourself, how you see DAOs right now, why you see them as so exciting, and the potential that they have, and how Snapshot fits into the DAOs in the blockchain ecosystem.
Well, Ashton, thank you very much. I'm super glad to be here, super glad to be talking about DAOs. So yeah, as you said, decentralized autonomous organization. I think the idea behind DAOs and why we think they're going to be really exciting and the development is going to be super interesting to follow in the next year is because of kind of two big qualities that DAOs have. So first, DAOs are networks instead of hierarchies, like, you know, all the organizations. And so that means you can have so much more innovation and so many more good ideas that organically come up and allow DAOs to really quickly invent new things and new even business models that we couldn't think of before. And then second is the inclusiveness of DAOs. I think is an incredible strength, because when you think about how much talent there is throughout the world, the fact that the barrier of entry is incredibly low, that anyone can just, you know, with an internet connection and a computer, join a Discord, join a community, be part of something, and be rewarded for that, and quite often handsomely rewarded for their participation. That's an incredible amount of innovation. And so Snapshot, what we do is we try to work on the sides of DAOs that are maybe less easy and work less well than traditional organizations. And one part that's often pointed out as more problematic is decision making, because when there's no boss, it's harder to make sure that, you know, a right decision will be made in a timely fashion. So what Snapshot does is it offers infrastructure, voting infrastructure, to all of these decentralized organizations in a way that is very transparent. You know, it's all open source, all of that type of stuff. And that allows for free anyone to come and participate in governance of the organization. And Snapshot is really about that. It's about making governance super flexible, you know, from voting with NFTs to voting with tokens to voting with, you know, today I was talking with Proof of Humanity, who's voting on a one person, one vote basis. It's all super interesting what's going on. So, you know, this is the mission of Snapshot, making sure that these organizations can be really quick and make the right decisions.
Great intro, Nathan. And yeah, you're right. Once you move from that hierarchical structure to something that's more level playing field, there's so many other questions to be answered with regards to participation, good actors, bad actors, and there's so much I want to dive into. But I also want to include Manlio here. We're talking about the participation rates in DAOs. How do we get DAOs right in terms of building a company and having the people inside of that organization be able to have their say and make sure that everyone, you know, sort of gets what they want, or at least comes to an agreement? I would love to get a little bit of information from you on your perspective on DAOs, these initiatives that your teams are working on, and just about HAL in general and how that fits into the blockchain space.
Okay, thank you, Ashton. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us here. It's a real pleasure. Let me backtrack just 1 second so I can tell you a bit about HAL to give you a bit of context for this. So HAL is an easy-to-use automation tool that connects centralized and decentralized technologies. What does that mean? I think we're all familiar with this kind of landscape. You have centralized technology, which is either Web 2.0 as we know it, on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you have this new exciting word of Web 3.0, which is fully decentralized, but it's kind of running in its own little world, running in its own little bubble, so to say. And we believe that we need to connect, to glue together, in fact, these two words as much as we can if we want the decentralized world, the new world, to thrive. We have written a bit of, actually Marco has written some philosophy piece about this. It's called the Gluing Manifesto. So if your listeners want to Google the Gluing Manifesto, you can learn more about the vision behind HAL. But basically, following this vision, the idea that we really had was, okay, how do we allow companies and traders and DAOs to basically connect centralized and decentralized, to monitor real-time activities on blockchains without writing code, without being too technical, thus allowing all these people to kind of join the Web3 revolution. That's the idea behind HAL, and that's why we created HAL. And we decided to partnership with different dApps and projects such as Snapshot. I'll just give you a quick example of the things that we do with HAL. So a simple example would be, say, Aave. Okay, Aave is like the biggest protocol for lending and borrowing money on DeFi. And one of the problems that everybody has on Aave is to track their HAL factor. Okay, that's a very common issue to have if you have a collateralized debt position on Aave. So in normal conditions, what you do is that you go on the website and you have like a tiny bit of information that tells you the state of your loan. And if it gets too under collateralized, you have to hurry up and do something about it, otherwise you risk being liquidated. So what HAL does, and this is just an example, is it lets you basically connect this piece of information that is on chain, which is, say, my health factor on Aave, with traditional tools such as email or Slack or Telegram or the stuff that we used to use, basically, in order for people to be, to stay on top of their health factor and to connect those two bits together. The second thing that we did we did many different things actually, but the project with Snapshot that we're doing is trying to solve, doing our little bit actually to try to solve a problem that DAOs all over the place have, and the problem is really to do with humans. So DAOs, as Nathan was telling us, are really exciting because they're a new technology, and this new technology allows it to do so many different things. But essentially, DAOs are still built on top of human beings. And human beings, they have the same issues that they had 2,000 years ago when democracy was born, so to say. And one of the issues to remove friction, which is exactly what Snapshot does. So you want to make it really easy to people, for people to vote on DAOs proposals, and that what Snapshot does brilliantly. And the second thing is you want to keep people informed. Okay, and this is where HAL comes into play. So right now, Snapshot is really good at solving the problem of how do we make it really simple and inexpensive for people to vote on DAO's proposals. And HAL is doing this second bit, which is how do we inform people? Because even in a democracy, if people don't know that they can vote, there's not much they can do, right? So it's really important to keep people up to date. So the partnership that we have with Snapshot is we developed this plugin that different DAOs can enable on the Snapshot website. And by clicking the plugin, you get redirected on the HAL website. And you can, basically that allows all the members of your DAO to subscribe to notification, to push notification directly to email, Telegram, Slack, Twitter, Discord. You can create bots with this kind of stuff. And this, is just our tiny little contribution from a tech perspective to make DAO voting and participation really inclusive.
Great. Yeah. You know what? I think that technology is really useful, especially for myself. People that are in DAOs are generally pretty familiar with cryptocurrency, and they're in the space. There's so much going on that you just miss the. There's a vote, and if there's a short time frame, you just completely miss it because there's just so many things. So to obviously have incoming notifications for that is going to be really useful. Now, with this partnership, are you guys partnering with specific DAOs? Are you just leaving open technology for any DAOs to come and start utilizing it? Or how are you approaching the market with this?
No, I think we want to keep this as open as we can for everybody, really. So we started with a trial, actually, with the guys at Aave. So at the beginning, it was only the Aave DAO. But no, we want to really keep the same spirit as Snapshot has, which, perhaps Nathan can elaborate a bit on that. But from our end, we are enablers. Like we think of ourselves as technology enablers. So our mission is to empower people to being able to just like really vote, really staying up to date with DAO's decisions. And in order to do that, it's important to keep the system as open and as flexible as possible.
Definitely. Nathan, do you have any comments on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Manlio said, it's incredibly important to us that everyone can benefit from this. There's so much to gain, at this stage of DAO development by leaving everything open and making sure everyone can access it. And even the code around plugins like these or the code that governs Snapshot, it's all open and anyone can check it out. I think, the way we think about participation and, democracy in DAOs is pretty simple, especially about participation. There's kind of two things you can do to raise participation in your DAO. You can either increase your members' impact, and that's not something, as infrastructure provider we can work on. It's on a DAO level. You have to give your community meaningful discussions and meaningful decisions they can make. But the other thing you can do, and that we can absolutely work on, is reduce the costs associated with voting. And costs can be many different things. They can be money, time, attention, effort. And, I think some, either Snapshot or HAL works on that side, making it inexpensive, easy. You don't need to pay attention every day to your Snapshot page to make sure that you're not missing anything. We'll take care of this for you, and all you have to do is come, participate, and vote. So lowering the entry barrier rather than keeping a walled garden around your DAO's governance.
Definitely, Nathan. Great point. And I want to further elaborate on that. In the DAO ecosystem as a whole, it's still very early days. 2021, we're seeing the emergence of popular DAOs, but before that, there really was just discussion. It's been around since the DAO, over 5 years ago now, but we're really only seeing people starting to join DAOs now. And we were hinting at how 2022 could be one of the biggest years for DAOs. Do you think that this participation and the initiative your team is working on is one of the main pain points that's going to push solve those problems to push more people into DAOs? And maybe there's any other pain points you can touch on why you think 2022 will be the most important year for the growth of DAOs into mainstream.
Well, so kind of the easy definition of a DAO is a group, an online group with a bank account. And this is not really a new idea. There's always been online groups that share financial interests, but DAOs add so much more to this. And I think one of the reasons I think DAOs are going to explode in the next year is simply because we're finding out every day new ways DAOs can solve coordination problems. And I'm always super impressed to see the kinds of problems that DAOs take on. It's incredible problems. There's DAOs around climate change, there are DAOs around universal basic income, there's DAOs around every kind of big problems that's mostly at heart a human coordination problem. And I think the impetus behind that movement, it's unstoppable. We found a way to make magic internet money. And with that magic internet money, we now need magic internet societies to govern these bank accounts, And to me, it's kind of the natural evolution of crypto. And it's not an evolution that, destroys what was before. It's an evolution that builds on what was before. So I think that's the most interesting part about it. And the biggest pain points at the moment is, like any kind of community, digital or in the real world, it's about if you're participating, if you feel shared interest and common goals, then you're full on DAO, and you're going to wake up in the morning and the first thing you're going to do is check out Discord and see what happened during the night, and you're going to feel incredibly like part of something. And to make sure that you feel part of something, you've got to participate in many different ways. And if it's a very serious investment DAOs that is discussing like multi-million-dollar deals, that also works, you know. If you feel part of it, if you're voting on investments, or if you're voting on, you know, your NFT DAO, whether you're going to make avatars in the metaverse of your NFTs, and whether those metaverse NFTs are going to be worth voting power, all of that is something that's going to make you feel more part of your community. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest pain point at the moment is how do we bridge that kind of digital, the kind of natural digital gap that happens between people. You know, if we're both in front of a computer and not in the same room together, we won't really be able to coordinate in the exact same way, except if we've got the right kind of tooling to do it. Mm-hmm. So if you know, it's funny you reference the DAO incident, and that it was 5 years ago. I can't believe it was 5 years ago at this point. But if you think about like the state of DAO tooling at the moment, I think the only DAO project that existed was called, I think it was Gnosis actually. Yeah, I think Gnosis might have been the only kind of DAO tooling solution around. And at the moment, the DAO tooling ecosystem is just incredible, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Great insight. Keep going, Manlio. If you have any,
I just wanted to say that I really agree on what Nathan is saying, and if I can piggyback on that for a second, I think you touched on a really important point, Nathan, which is, you know, at its core, DAOs, as I was mentioning earlier, are made of people, right? And people have, and they share the same needs. You know, people, they need to, well, we figure out quite early on as a species that if we collaborate, if we get together, we can get a lot of stuff done that we couldn't do on our own. But at the same time, if the size of the group scales too much, then it becomes well, really hard to coordinate, and all sorts of problems when of meaning arise as well. And I think that's why, you know, so many people are kind of disaffectionate when it comes to, well, you know, modern day democracies and so on, that kind of representation that is starting to break down a little bit. The amazing thing with DAO that we're witnessing is that by reducing and distributing the kind of collaboration that you have among people, you can start to tinker with all sorts of different kinds of collaboration that simply were not feasible in the past, right? Because until like a few decades ago, you could only coordinate at that level with people from your own town or college or country. And, you know, even at that size, the meaning starts to break apart a little bit. So DAOs, in some sense, are kind of taking that spirit back. But as Nathan was saying, it's really important for us to, at the same time, focus on the tech side of it, to provide the best tech tools possible for this self-organizing organization to thrive and to coordinate.
Great points for both of you. Thank you so much for that. If the viewers are looking to learn more about how your firms are helping grow the DAO ecosystem and how to utilize this technology to get the notifications, to make sure they're participating in DAOs, and just about DAOs in general, what's the best way to learn more about this partnership that your teams have been working on?
Well, I think the best way is to get involved in any DAOs. You know, find a DAO that is supporting something that you care about, get involved, and then you'll naturally stumble upon probably Snapshot and HAL as well. So what I would recommend is, get involved in a DAO, subscribe to Snapshot notifications, engage with the DAO discussions on Discord and forums and whatever that happens. You can find more info about HAL specifically at HALXYZ, and you can follow us on Twitter at HAL Team. And I'll leave it to Nathan for the Snapshot details.
Yeah, same. I think if you want to get to know more about DAOs, you gotta plunge right in. There's no real way of doing it, doing it other than that. So if you want to follow Snapshot, we're on Twitter at Snapshot Labs. Come join the Discord as well.
Sounds great. I'll leave all the links to that you guys just mentioned in the description box below as well. And the DAOs that I'm in, I'm going to go check for Snapshot and HAL right now. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate the discussion about DAOs. Looking forward to following up in 2022 to revisit these discussions that we've had and to see how close we were to the target. I'm sure that there's going to be so much in store. I really appreciate both of you coming on, and let's follow up in the near future.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Ashton. It
Thanks
was
a
a
lot,
pleasure
Ashton.
being here.